What's going on, Fanout Crew? Welcome back to our channel. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central, we do these unless it's last week because, stuff happens. We're going to be we're finally getting into phase 2 of the MCU. It's been a while since we did our Avengers video. John, that was one of the first ones you did with us.
It was a good time.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to play Which One Is Worse? And we're going to compare Thor The Dark World versus Iron Man 3. Brian, in 3 or 4 words, you're going to say Iron Man 3 or you're going to say Thor The Dark World. Which one is worse? Go.
Thor.
Thor The Dark World or Thor?
Thor to the Dark World.
Okay. John, same question. Go.
The exact same answer. Thor: The Dark World is worse than Iron Man 3.
You guys are all messed up in the head. All right, so Brian.
Wait, so you're saying Iron Man 3 is
Iron Man 3 is the
worse?
second worst movie in the MCU, third worst movie in the MCU. Barely worse than this
I thought
movie
it was the worst,
than The Dark World. Brian, remind people at home what are our categories for these rewatch movies that we review?
Cinematography, cast performance, plot, rewatchability, and the music score.
Sorry, had to get a beer. John, why don't you and Brian run with these, and I'll just chime in because I'm just here for the ride. I just want to laugh at these horrible movies.
All right. For consistency's sake, I was going to suggest, Brian, that we start with Iron Man 3 because that is the next one.
Agreed.
It comes chronologically.
He's already had a beer to prep himself for this conversation.
I've had more than a beer, my friend.
I'll tell you what. Let's you guys just want to talk about what we scored and why we scored them, and then we'll just talk about this movie in steps.
Yeah, let's get the scores out of the way, and then we'll just talk about the movies overall. Cool.
Let's do it.
John, lead us off. Pick a category, Brian.
Cinematography.
Let's talk about old Iron Man 3 here. There is, again, like all Marvel shots, there's some cool shots, and I actually enjoyed, say what you will about the rest of the movie, but the shots that conveyed Kingsley as the Mandarin, that was scary. It was just like that was like, okay, that's really cool how they did that. But after you get out of kind of stuff and you get out of the scene where they blew up Iron Man 3's house, and like I think we mentioned this before we aired, the protocol. What's the protocol called again?
House Party Protocol.
And then after you get past the House Party Protocol, there's not too much to write home about in terms of cinematography in this movie. A few really cool shots, but as we will touch on earlier, this movie tries to go deeper into the character development of Tony Stark. So the cinematography wasn't really
tries and fails.
Oh, I disagree.
No, it did. It did successfully go into Tony Stark's character development, but the movie's not called Tony Stark. I gotta stop. Brian, go.
Character development is important, and I think Marvel developed an amazing character in the trailer for this movie and then changed their mind when they released the movie in theaters, because the Mandarin was very much all the hype like when this trailer hit, and I feel like he was like the butt of a bad joke for this movie.
Punchline.
Fast forward like almost a decade, and this character is still in Marvel and became the joke of every movie he's in, but at least they've embraced that he really is a joke now and it's funny. But at the time in Iron Man, that he was really just a waste of space, and I feel like they hot swapped out a really interesting story with what I thought we were going to get with the Mandarin for a really underperforming Extremis storyline that was really kind of forced.
Yeah, so about that cinematography score. Isn't that what we're doing?
Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, I think I'm at a 4. Um, the movie itself, while not great, does have some really cool shots and visuals.
Yeah.
That's all I can say to it.
I mean, that's why I said that I think I rated it at a 3. Again,
Yes.
without the few scenes that I mentioned, you don't really talk about the cinematography from Iron Man 3 at all.
So that gives us 3.3 on that.
Yeah, I have it as a 3, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember what I rated for any of these. It's just like the movies. They're not. They're all forgettable.
Hey, you were like 4,
Um,
2,
Yeah. So
3.
I don't think I was
whatever.
4 for any of them, was I? But yeah, I mean, look, this movie has
You were.
This movie has some nice shots. I mean, the house party protocol is really cool. The whole scene where his mansion in Malibu gets destroyed is really really cool looking. That's all I can really say. It's middle of the pack MCU for me as far as cinematography goes. It's a Shane Black movie. It's a Shane Black movie that takes place in the MCU. It's not an MCU movie, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, cast performance. I'm actually kind of high on this. Although the story and plot sucked, I do think that this movie has an excellent cast of great actors that acted what they were directed to do. So I'm actually at a 4, which I think was a little higher than you guys.
Was that again?
You
I
both had
completely agree
3.5.
with the cast members like as we get in Iron Man 3. They are just told to play their parts on screen, and I believe, and when the director says that's the shot we're using, they have done their job. You know what I'm saying? And I am convinced that all the actors, they put everything they got into it. So I'm not going to knock any of the cast performances in this whatsoever. I'm not going to knock anybody who may or may not have been miscast. I believe the young lady who was the botanist, even though she wasn't a botanist, is the only young lady. I don't recall her name, which is a damn shame.
Rebecca Hall, I think. Maybe she's also in Kong vs. Godzilla or Godzilla vs. Kong, whatever the hell it's called.
So yeah, if it is you, Rebecca Hall, you're the only person whose name I couldn't remember.
2 movies that reference Pensacola. Iron Man 3 talks about Pensacola near the end of the movie when he talks about the oil ship that dropped a bunch of like crude oil. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
I had, what did I have? 3.5.
You both had 3.5.
Oof. I may have just been bowing to social pressure on that one. Honestly, I mean, look, RDJ is the man. I mean, he carries a 3.5 by himself, even on his worst day. You know, maybe even a 4, arguably. Ben Kingsley, I mean, come on, dude, he's awesome. But I just don't like the choices they made for this movie. You touched on it a little bit earlier. The trailer for this film is for a different movie, just period. And that drives me crazy. And I understand the point of the trailer is to get people to want to watch the movie, and it did. But it feels like false advertising when they literally show the Mandarin like with the rings of power like on his fingers in the trailer, and then none of that is in the final film, and it's a his character is a joke, and it just felt like I just got
The middle fingers.
I just got gutted, man, and it was just like, look, this is the movie hinges on whether or not the twist works for you, and it did not work for me. So I'm giving it a. Go ahead.
That has nothing to do with the casting.
I was just gonna say I'm giving it a 3.5 just because the performances were fine, but I can't enjoy the characters the way that I wanted to because they made such horrible decisions, in my opinion. So no one does a bad job per se, but this movie is just forgettable for me. Like, Rhodey is in the Iron Patriot suit less than the president and the villain is. Like, how the hell is that possible, right? And you think about it, and you're like, and it's like that's all that's the director's job to get the best performance out of his cast and all that stuff. And I didn't realize that's not necessarily like a casting choice. That's just part of the story. It's the whole thing just doesn't work for me in this movie. So 3.5 is too much for me.
Yeah, here's the little tidbit for this movie. The entire time we see Iron Patriot, while it is piloted by Rhodey, never fires a single shot.
Correct. He never does anything.
Never fires a single shot
True.
in the entire film.
He points his gun at some
he breaks down
like,
a door. The most forceful thing you see Rhodey do in the War Machine, or excuse me, in the Iron Patriot suit, is knock down a couple doors.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, exactly.
that's that.
Yeah, I never realized that because they do make it such a big deal that he got this armor and lands at this airbase, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, we have this awesome thing now!" And
Yeah.
no,
All right,
we don't.
let's get past this. We get two
Moving
movies
on.
to do here.
Surprisingly, the most shocking score out of every score I'm going to talk through tonight is that somehow my score for the plot is lower than Colby's.
Ooh.
The plot is good. The execution sucks. There's a difference. The idea of the plot is better than the execution.
I'm at a 1.
Okay.
And I don't think I need to repeat why. I think all of us have touched on it. This movie had a lot of potential and could not figure out how to organize.
What did I get for the plot?
A cohesive plot. Shockingly, a 3.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm gonna give that. I'm gonna change it to
2.5. Unless I wrote it down.
I'm gonna
wrong.
change it to 2. No, I'm gonna change it to 2.5 because like Tony has PTSD in this movie from the events of New York because why wouldn't he? And then he just doesn't. And there's nope. He's cured. And it's just, it's dude, no. And like, it's just horrible, dude. And whose idea was it to put Tony Stark in Tennessee with this kid for 45 minutes? And it just goes nowhere. It's just, blech.
So first off, let me ask you a question real quick, Colby. Big bad man in a suit of armor. You take that off. What is he?
He's Iron Man,
and that's what we got.
That's the thing, though. Hold on a second.
No.
Hold on.
This
is not Spider-Man: Homecoming, where if you're nothing without the suit, you shouldn't have it. Okay, that's not what this is. Tony is Iron Man. Iron Man 2. Some of the very first things he says is the suit and I are one. This is not about Tony Stark anymore. This is about he's Iron Man now. Period. When he came out in Iron Man 1, he's not saying, "Yeah, it's me, I'm Iron Man." He's saying, "I am Iron Man. That's who I am now." You can't take Tony Stark out of the suit for 80% of the movie and have him go into this mansion in Miami with gloves and these things he made from Home Depot. Like, that shit doesn't work, dude. I'm sorry.
Ornaments.
Doesn't work. Whatever it is. He is Iron Man. Period. Like, that's who he is now.
Like I said,
one argument.
Go ahead.
One argument about the kid and the plot with him. I do think when they made this movie, they were intending to have this kid continue to be part of the MCU and RDJ's eventual replacement. But I think that was before they struck the deal with Sony and had Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll buy that.
And so I think they intended to do more with him, but when this movie kind of fell on its face and then other stuff happened, that's just didn't happen.
We can't say fell on its face because it made a fuck ton of money.
It did, but I will argue.
So did Captain Marvel.
You could literally make the worst Avengers 5 movie or 6 movie or whatever, and it literally be a dog pooping. That movie is going to sell tickets regardless. And then when everyone goes there and sees it, they're like, "Wow, this was a pile of crap," and not be happy.
Look, we already did our Eternals review.
You already spent your money,
Brian. Okay, so
I liked Eternals. Shut up. All right. So, anyways, you had something else I think you were going to say, John, and then we'll move on
about the plot, man. I dig it. This movie, if you guys, both of you guys, you can't fucking lie to me, because both of you guys said, "Hey, I haven't gotten around to watching that shit." If you go back and watch it again, there's two things that happen.
I rewatched it 6 months ago.
So
I rewatched it.
Yeah. Anyway, there's this one scene where he gets out of a seat, or he's walking to talk to somebody, and there's that hand-to-hand combat dummy sitting right there. And he walks by, and he does some hand-to-hand move on it or whatever. The guy's been training to do this hand-to-hand stuff. I think he knows. To be the complete him, he needs the suit, and to be Iron Man, he needs his suits, and that's where he is right now. But he hasn't been a slouch. He hasn't been sitting on a couch depending on these suits.
That's not my argument, though. I don't have a problem with it.
I know.
Okay.
You've said your arguments. So my argument is just we get this answer. It's just what if you do take Tony out of these prosthetics and he's still a hero. You take Tony out of the Iron Man suit and he's still a freaking hero. And you see where this movie sets up everything we get about where Tony is in his head going forward about needing and wanting to protect the world. You know what I'm saying? He's just like, yes, he gets rid of all these suits, which again, we're not on the plot yet. And when we get there, it's going to be different. Wait, are we on? We are on the plot.
We are on the plot.
We're on the plot. Oh my God.
You're on the wrong planet.
On the wrong planet. All right. So to get into this plot, all right, yes. Me, the Mandarin subversiveness did not bother me that much. And I think the movie would have panned out better if we got oh my gosh. Eldridge Killian, portrayed by oh my God, lead bad guy.
Guy Pearce.
Pierce, if he would have been sitting there in his extremis and he's all orange and he's about to die to Pepper Potts, if he was to sit there and say there is no Mandarin, that would have made better than him saying I am the Mandarin.
He apparently improvised that line too, and Shane Black was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." That's what I'm saying. Like this movie makes so many bad choices. It's it.
So anyway, if you when we get into the rewatchability, this touches on this, but if you go for some reason, like the first fucking movie you watch is Age of Ultron, and you're like, oh, why is Tony Stark like that? That's why you got to go back and rewatch Iron Man 3 to get a little bit more of an understanding where he is in his headspace. So, yes, I will. At the same time, I'm not going to fault Colby for not liking this movie at all. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of stuff that you're just like, and the other thing is, this movie is not helped by the fact it was on the heels of one of the best comic movies ever made.
That's what I'm saying. And the only other thing I will say is that people are not buying tickets to see Tony Stark build a bunch of stuff that's like from Home Depot and kill guys. You know what I mean? Like that's not what puts butts in the seats.
We got that story in the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah. So it's like it felt like he's not in. I mean, it's almost like they saved the stuff for the end, the House Party Protocol, and then they wanted it to be this huge event, and it works. It's just not. It's like by that time I was like, I don't care anymore. So.
And another thing about the plot, the last scene, not including the post credits where we see Tony Stark talking to Mark Ruffalo or Banner, but the last time we see Tony Stark is he throws the arc reactor in his chest down into the ocean. Right.
That's another thing I hate. And I'll talk to
it next time we see Tony Stark, it's Iron Man again, and we don't see Tony Stark again until Age of Ultron.
Right.
Like there's something in there.
Yeah.
That was misplayed.
Well, that's the ending of this movie kills me because like it literally it's just so Deus Ex Machina. Like the fight ends and then he's talking to Bruce and he's like, oh yeah, I sorted Pepper out. What? How? Like he just writes it off like, oh, no big deal. I sorted her out. And then it shows him getting the, shrapnel removed from his heart and everything. And it's like, well, I thought you were incurable. Like how, like you already made this clear that you can't just fix this. So the fact that he threw out the arc reactor isn't that big of a deal because you and I have talked about this before. It's not like Rhodey has an arc reactor in him. Like the suit is what's like the arc reactor powers the suit. You don't need an arc reactor to be Iron Man. You need it for the suit. So I'm okay with that, but it's like, yeah, you're right. He retired and then he signed another deal with Marvel, and it's like, hey, Edge of Ultron, let's go to Sokovia. So it's just, yeah, I get it. Anyway,
question:
what's next?
I do not remember, but for the House Party Protocol, that's him calling all the Iron Man suits out, right?
Yeah.
What was stopping him from doing that prior to him doing that?
His the house had been destroyed, and Mark 42 doesn't have any power because he was flying to Tennessee because he prepared a flight plan or whatever and runs out of power. And then he had to devise some way to get the suit charged. I remember Jarvis was all messed up because do you remember?
He didn't have a hard line to Jarvis either.
Yeah. This is before he is like gotten everything like basically satellite controlled and all that stuff, right? Like Jarvis was in the suit, the Mark 42, and the suit kept messing up and he didn't have it properly charged, so he had to work with that kid. Like, it's dumb. I agree. It's dumb.
You're telling me like he doesn't have an Alexa sitting in his basement and he's like, hey, Alexa, House Party Protocol.
But no, they cover that
Alexa,
as well.
stop listening to me.
Damn it, now I'm going to have like shit going on.
There is a moment, and it's a really brief moment, where Jarvis does tell Tony they have cleared the debris. That's when he's like, okay, House Party Protocol.
Yeah,
There
it's
is
one of the Iron Man suits is a Hulk Buster.
yeah, it's like a pre Hulkbuster, but he lifts up like a shipping crate and that's it. And it's like cool. You know, like dude, have you guys ever looked, just Google all the different suits, like the Mark versions? There's a website out there. I don't know which one it is, but you can find it. And it literally shows every single version of the movie suits they use. Like they all have their own different names. Like there's like Blackjack, there's like Silver Centurion, Jack, like they all have these different names. Yeah, and it's actually kind of cool. But you see them for like 2 frames. Some of them, you know, it's like, okay, great.
So we have 2 more categories left.
Yeah,
We
what's
have
up?
the score,
Rewatchability.
Yeah, real quick. Someone in chat said they're also not buying tickets to see Iron Man having panic attacks. Exactly. Like that stuff has to be covered though, based on the fact of what happened in New York. And then they were just like, okay, we checked the box. Now we can just forget that he has PTSD for the rest of the movie. Like I thought that was going to be a big plot point, and then he's just doesn't have it anymore, and they don't ever talk about it. And I was just like, what the hell? So anyway, what's next?
Rewatchability.
One
Colby said
next.
one.
I just
have
look.
it too.
I hate this movie.
I've touched on it. I've touched
Yeah.
on it. Why? The only reason I go back and watch this thing is because I love watching all my Marvel movies. I love watching them in a row.
Yeah.
And the only reason, if so, is hey John, why should I go back and watch Iron Man 3? For one, if you're a hardcore Iron Man fan, sure, go watch it. If you just love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, go watch it. You got to watch it. Or again, if you just want to pick up on why, more puzzle pieces on why Tony is the way he is going forward in the MCU, and that's it.
Yeah, I will say the some of the really action heavy set pieces in this movie are cool. The Air Force One scene is actually really cool, where he saves all the people, and then the whole time he's been remotely piloting it, and you don't know it. That's actually kind of a cool bait and switch when he gets run over, and you're like, oh crap, oh wait, yeah. So I mean, there's some cool things in this movie, but this movie was the biggest disappointment of the MCU for me, at least thus far. You know, I was so disappointed with this movie because the trailer sold it as it was going to be this epic movie, and it just wasn't. I guess that leaves what, music, Brian, or do you? Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was going to say you're at a 1. Me and John were both at 2s, but I will give a little bit of credit to this movie. With when I first saw it in theaters, I hated it. I would have said 1s and 0s all the way across this board, just because I was angry when I watched it. When I did rewatch it a few months ago, going back through my rewatch that we're catching up on with these ratings, I did like the movie. Like going back and rewatching it after it had been years, I liked it more, at least. But it is still weak sauce. But I do feel like you can't skip over it.
If you're watching all the MCU stuff, you're not skipping any movie. And again, first off, we have to say this every freaking time we do this.
I feel like you can skip Incredible Hulk. Personally,
all the movies in the context of the MCU are good movies. We're not shitting on these movies for the sake of shitting on movies, or even saying bad things. It's just like I love all the MCU movies. But if you ask me, hey, which one do you like less than the other ones? Definitely Iron Man 3 is at the bottom. It's like low C for me.
Yeah, this is like a D for me within the context of the MCU, but it's still like a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, you know, so it's like, I mean, it's good. It's a good movie. It just sucks in the MCU. Like, if that makes sense.
It's in a tough crowd.
Right?
It's in a tough crowd.
Yeah.
So music score. Iron Man, I feel like, has this one kind of easy, like in the other Marvel movies, just because it has such a good rock soundtrack. But I don't remember this one being as memorable.
This one isn't
as the other Iron Man, so I'm at a 3.
Again, it's hard for me to knock anybody that puts time and effort into putting music to film.
Yeah,
it's
I couldn't do this
lower
shit.
than a 3. So I'll do 3. I mean, only because of the difficulty it is to figure out exactly what you're supposed to do when it comes to music on screen. I'll give it a 3.
I
Colby,
think
you had a 2.5.
I was gonna say I think I had a 2.5, and it's all because of that Blue song from the very beginning when they were back in 1999. That takes me back. But honestly, though, the Iron Man 3 theme, the main theme that they play when his mansion is under attack and when he gets his suit back and stuff, that song slaps. Like that's a good song, but I don't remember any other memorable songs from this movie. So again, I have it middle of the pack. You know, for me to rate a score lower than 2.5 means it's like genuinely crap. But there's some good music in this movie. I just overall hate the movie. So it's just I just have so many problems with it because it could and should have been so good, and it's the villain just is a complete joke in this movie to me.
So to end it on a positive note, well, I guess maybe before we end it on a positive note, our overall score is 2.7, which is pretty dang low for the Marvel universe. But as I say, to end it on a positive note, what is your favorite thing about this movie? What is the one thing it did right?
Go ahead, John.
It brings everybody back together after the event. I don't know. It again, just to talk about the Avengers a bit, it showed me that the MCU was still going forward. And a really good thing about this movie, I still love the opening scene where Tony's putting on the Mark 42 for the first time and he's jamming. Oh, for those of you who forgot, this is a Christmas movie. This movie takes place during Christmas. So it's technically a Christmas movie too. So I forget the name of the song that was playing, but Tony's like sitting there dancing, putting on the Mark 42 for the first time. I think it's really cool to see all of his suits back behind him, all lined up from the first time he wears it all the way through. I think it's the Mark 7 the Avengers.
7 is Avengers, yeah.
So anyway, you have all the suits all shoulder to shoulder in the background. Yeah, and again, man, nobody does we forgot to talk about you. Give him a little bit of a name drop right here. You know, our boy John Favreau turns as Happy Hogan. You know, Happy is good until they take him out of the movie. It's really funny. He's the overprotective, and he doesn't understand that he's being put down. He's like, well, thank you. It's like, we've had an increase in HR complaints by 300%. Well, thank you. You know, it's like, anyway, of course, that classic MCU comedy bits are still in there. Again, when Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin, or as Trevor Slattery, got the gun pointed at his face and he's being interrogated, he still finds time to go, ole, ole, ole. You know what I'm saying? There's those moments that make you chuckle. So go back for the humor, and if you again, if you want to see where Tony's, I've said it like 18 times. If you want to see where Tony's headspace is, go watch Iron Man 3. If you like that classic MCU humor, there's a ton of that in there. Go watch it.
So the best thing this movie does for me is that it was the first time that I really felt like they solidified Tony and Pepper's relationship. They go through a lot in this movie, not necessarily together, you know, but like Pepper's there when the mansion gets destroyed, and the first thing he does is put the Mark 42 on her, you know, and their relationship really does kind of blossom in this movie. I mean, yeah, there's the beginning of the Avengers. They have that funny scene in the tower with Agent Coulson. You know, why is he Phil? His first name is Agent. You know, like that was a cool scene. But then she just disappears for the rest of the movie. So I enjoyed their relationship in this movie.
That's actually where I was going to go with it. But since you stole that, I think the next best thing that it did was end.
Yeah, seriously.
That hurts. But no, I
burn.
All joking aside, I do think that it did go in the right direction with their relationship. It kind of sucked, like in the first two movies, that I don't know. It felt weird, like they were a thing, but they weren't a thing, and he was still like going around with other chicks and stuff. It was kind of awkward. But yeah, so I'm glad they solidified that. I do think that the biggest opportunity for this movie, what I would have loved to see, is we just had this huge team up movie, and to show that these guys are a unit and they can work together. And then the first thing they did was scatter them out in different directions, and they can't help each other by sending Thor back to Asgard. And
it makes me mad how Rhodey just gets he just gets the shaft, man. Like, he's nowhere to be found in Avengers, even though he's an OG, dude. Like, he's in Iron Man 1, dude. Like, you know.
No, he's not.
And well, fine, okay, he's War Machine in Iron Man 2 before we even see Cap or Thor.
I was
you know?
making a
I know.
joke about the actor.
And then he shows up at the end of Age of Ultron when they're fighting in Sokovia, and you're like, oh yeah, he's a thing, you know. And he's in Iron Man 3 and does dick, you know. And it just it sucks.
But all joking aside, I do think this movie did do some things right.
Yeah,
and
Eddie says number one is Ben Kingsley.
I wouldn't remove it from the MCU, and I do think that even though I did not like what they did with the Mandarin and kind of hot swapping him for the Extremist guy, I do think that Slattery's character is really funny in Shang-Chi, and I'm glad that they brought him back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that we'll actually see a little bit more of him in other properties.
One more thing that I did like, I really kind of enjoyed the sort of like Batman style investigation he does with the explosion at the like Chinese theater. How he has the different angles and kind of like twists stuff around, and like he looks at that footage of Happy like pointing to that thing, and you got the sort of like detective vibe from him in that scene, which I thought was cool. But then it just sort of like stops. So there's just a lot of missed opportunities in this movie.
Yep.
That means,
all right.
So what was the final score overall? You said 2.7?
2.7, which is actually not as low as I thought it would be.
Pretty much where I thought it would be, personally, because I know you guys like this movie more than I do, and I don't hate it. I mean, I say I hate it, but I don't. Like, I'll watch it. It's just so I'm disappointed in it. Like, I want it to be better.
You hated it again. You hate it in its place in the MCU. That's what you mean when you say
for sure.
You hate this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like the prequels, you know, like, yeah, they're horrible, and I hate them, but they're still family. You know what I mean? Like they're, you know, like they're unwatchable.
Nice to see at the family reunion.
Yeah, they're unwatchable, but they're still family. You know. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to Thor: The Dark World. What's ironic about this movie? I think I actually scored less on this movie than I did in Iron Man 3, but I enjoy The Dark World more than Iron Man 3 personally. So I rated it lower. I rated it lower, but I enjoy it more, which is, I know is weird, but it just is what it is. It's kind of like,
I think that's because they didn't do the bait and switch like with the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't disappointed with this movie because I didn't expect a huge amount. We usually use Star Wars cinematography, right?
Yeah, let's go backwards.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's do it the other way. The Asgard theme, the Rainbow Bridge theme, is one of the best themes in the early phases of the MCU. Having said that, I don't remember a single other song from this film. So, 2.5, 3, maybe ish. I don't know.
You're at 2.5. I did 2.5 as well. And I agree. Like, there's like one or two parts that I really like, but outside of those, there's not anything new or fresh that we didn't already have in other movies.
Yeah.
And sadly, I don't even remember a cool theme for the Dark Elves. Like, did they even have a cool theme? I don't remember.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, but it's hard to remember, though.
There's a great video out there that shows you how many slip-ups the MCU does, because it's nothing that evokes emotion. There is, like, if something silly is going on, there's like a silly music thing going with it. If it's something sad going on, there's a sad theme. So they play it so safe, which is why a lot of the music in Thor, first off, there's nothing for you to get excited about at all in this movie, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm just saying there's very little to get emotional about within the context of this movie. And so I think I gave it a 3 exact, or maybe even a 2, because again, I will not knock anybody for trying to put music to film ever, which is a cop out for me, and I know.
No, I hear you. I mean, I can't do this stuff. My son plays piano, and I don't have a musical bone in my body. I can't do any of this stuff. But at the same time, if I can't remember a single song other than like the main one, then meh, you know.
I feel like the only time you score at music is when you're watching a movie and you're like, "What the hell is this shit? Turn it off!" Like, I don't want to listen to this music. Because it doesn't even necessarily have to be music. There's a lot of incidental music and sound effects that I kind of lump into that same category of sound.
But enough about Stern's Rush pinball machine. What's next?
my god.
Rewatchability, and I think
Oh,
all of us
no.
were on the same page, and that page is 1.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. We looked at the first page. Yep.
You do not need to watch this movie to understand anything that happens for the rest of the MCU. You other than the fact that he doesn't discover the Infinity Stones. That's the Age of Ultron. See, this movie's useless.
Yeah, the only parts
So-
that matter in this, they injected into other movies.
Right, yeah. Now, I will say that they have as genius as Marvel is, they've managed to make this movie like actually have a place in the MCU because it has so many callbacks to Endgame and to other films that it's like, well, it's a thing now. It's important.
And the other thing, y'all don't
Darcy
understand.
Lewis, my guilty pleasure. Yeah, Eddie knows what's up.
When we get
Double
to,
D tier, you know what I'm saying?
we can almost skip over where we on right now. We're on rewatchability. We're about to get into the cast, and which is the only reason I would tell anybody to go watch The Dark World, because when there's nothing going on and it's just two characters sitting there on screen, there's a lot to enjoy. In my opinion, so if you want to talk about rewatchability, you're right. It's just like, unless you really got to go see a dialogue between Odin and Thor, you do not have to watch this movie. The MacGuffin in this movie is a red sludge that goes into Natalie Portman, where it winds up at the Collector at the end of the movie in a post-credit scene. There is absolutely no reason at all why we fast forward to Infinity War, and that the ether, if you will, is already there. You know what I'm saying? Why it had to be buried underground for the sake of this movie?
If Thanos can destroy Xandar and take the Power Stone off screen and it's okay, then you can skip this movie. Like it's just like,
exactly.
It's useless.
So plot 1, and it'll be hard to bring me up on that. Or rewatchability is 1.
What's funny is the last time I watched this movie voluntarily is because I had only ever watched it one time before then, and it being so bad, I just never went back, and I could not remember what actually happened with the elves because they don't really matter throughout the entire plot.
Oh.
I like how they destroy Asgard and then don't. Like, that's cool, I mean,
yeah.
There's this when the Dark Elves awaken, because the Aether calls to us. I'm like, so the Aether calling to you just kind of powers on your ship that's been asleep for however many thousands of years. And again, that's the plot. It's just like, well, we got to wake up the bad guys.
It's the Man of Steel syndrome all over again. Like, hey, I know this ship's been here for 20,000 years, but I made you a suit. I hope it fits, son. Like, what the fuck?
Oh,
like,
okay. Anyway.
So it's the exact same thing as that. Like, it just it's a comic book movie, so we get it. So
yeah,
we all had
We're
one
sort of talking about
rewatchability, right?
Yeah, one's on rewatchabilities, but we kind of started to talk about plot. We're all at a 2, so page 2. Here we are.
Hey, we did it. We got there.
There are some interesting things with this movie. Like, I really kind of dug the 9 realms kind of like overlapping and like having the different like portals and stuff, But Richard Man of Steel sucks. It's the worst movie ever. And
it is really bad.
They should call it Man and Women of Steel beat the crap out of Superman, even though they've only been on Earth for 30 minutes of Steel. And movie sucks.
We can rewatch that one right now, dude. I love the Man of Steel.
That's good.
So
I'm glad you enjoy it.
We will never agree.
What, you hate it, right, Brian?
Yeah,
it's trash. All right, so anyway, what are we talking?
I'm out of here.
What movie are we talking about? Thor: The Dark World. What were we talking about? The score? No. Where are we?
We're at a 2 on the plot. And then we were complaining about the elves don't really have a reason to exist.
I like how the different realms are converging and stuff. Like, that's kind of, that has some pretty big significance potentially. And then it just
nothing happens.
Doesn't. And exactly. It just kind of falls apart. I like the idea of Malekith. Christopher Eccleston is a great actor. I enjoyed him in Doctor Who. Enjoyed him a lot in Gone in 60 Seconds. He's a great villain. Looks cool, I think, personally. Just blech. I don't know.
3-4 lines in English.
Yeah, and it's just there's just not the plot is kind of convoluted too. Like, he takes her to Asgard because she's sick when like he knows that it's a bad idea. Like it's just I don't know. It's weird.
So
It's
just
good one,
a
Eddie.
thought, like a kind of a plot hole. In Guardians, they discuss that like humans can't really hold the Infinity Stones, right? Like they can't deal with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it kind of makes
Now
sense
that's
that
not out
she's
yet at this
sick.
time, but
Right, but it is sort of like an interesting plot hole that she survives, period. I do know that this is not the same as the Power Stone, but
yeah, that's the only one that
um,
disintegrates people when they touch them. Because Hawkeye
is
held the
it?
Soul Stone.
Did he?
Yeah, he woke
Yeah.
up. The Soul Stone was in his
I
hand.
mean they all have different
Doctor
powers.
Strange
They all have different
holds
powers,
the Time Stone
but
all the time.
at the beginning of Infinity War, they make it clear that like Thanos is like the only one that could possibly ever hold two of them, you know, or the first one to
Sure.
hold two of them.
Yeah,
So,
and I would argue most of the time we see it in some sort of artifact, like it's in Loki's staff, or it's in the Eye of Agamotto, or it's always in a vessel. And even when they're transporting the Aether at the end, it's like in a weird little Asgardian box. Like,
yeah. And Rich got a good point. I mean, this is Marvel like dabbling with this stuff before the rules are officially in place yet, you know? So I'm okay with the Ether not killing her, but at the same time, it's like, ugh.
and also like
I mean,
why I feel like they kind of shoehorned it into being an Infinity Stone. Like,
You mean like Loki's scepter and the Tesseract?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because that
I
was the
don't
plan
know.
all along.
They make mention that that the Aether is different. It's like most of them are stones. Like Odin
Right.
says that most of them are stones, but the Aether isn't. And nah.
Oh, someone called it a stone earlier. We'll need to.
but
need to amend
again,
that.
even with the Tesseract and the scepter, those were believable because it's like it was an object imbued with the stone, and
Right,
like
yeah.
people could use the object to sort of take advantage of its powers, but not to the full extent.
And so we go into this plot. Dark elves want to turn everything to darkness. I just want to do it. They want to do a thing. They need the Aether.
They want to go
do
back
it.
to they want to go back to sleep, and they got woke up.
Oh,
Yeah,
by
they're
the
just
Aether.
grumpy. They're just grumpy. They had a long nap.
Just night shift.
They get
They're
woken
just
up
night
and they're
shift,
like,
yo.
bro, this is not. I'm not feeling this. Like, I gotta turn this shit off.
They work the night shift. They're like, close the goddamn curtains. Anyway, there's and I feel bad. Like I said, when we get to our cast, which is coming up really soon, we've never seen more.
We can probably go
people-
ahead and talk about that because
Let's
I mean,
get over the plot. It's not
Yeah.
good.
yeah,
So
it's not good.
it's not good. The plot is terrible.
MCU patch notes. That's what this
Oh my
is.
God.
It's
So
funny.
are we on cast? What we
Yeah.
got for cast?
Yeah, let's talk
Brian?
We're on
about how
cast
let's talk about how
performance, so-
unbelievably horrible Natalie Portman is in this movie, and literally
No.
does not want to be there this entire movie.
I don't agree with that at all.
Are you
I-
serious?
Yeah.
Bro.
I will say that I am a fan of Natalie Portman. I do not think that she wanted to, like, she cared about this movie, in my opinion. She is the weak link as far as cast performance goes. I'm at a 4.5, so I'm still really high.
How the hell are you at a 4.5?
I rated it a 5, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so I'm not saying her performance was trash, but
You
it's definitely
you
the
can
weak
put any
link.
number you want. I just want to hear some justification for it. I just want to know why. Not saying you're
Hey,
wrong.
Are you done with your thought, Brian? I'm gonna let you go.
The only other comment I had on it, and I was tempted to score lower, but I don't think it's Chris Eccleston's fault. Big fan of Chris Eccleston, but I feel like he was completely misused in this movie. His character really did not matter in the long run. I think this was more of a battle against the Aether than it was.
The only
a
thing I
battle
will say
against
about
the
that,
elves.
and you're totally right. The only thing I will say about that, name one villain, sans Loki, in the first two phases that matters at all in the MCU. There isn't any. And it's like, what?
Do we get to include Tony Stark? Because Tony Stark was the villain in.
In Civil War. That's phase 3. So, haha.
No, he was a Phase 1 character.
Oh, I meant. Yeah, okay, all right, whatever. But, Brian, you're right.
You got to think about
Yeah,
that. I got to
right.
think about that.
There's
Like,
not. Marvel does not have any good villains until, like, other than Loki, in the first few phases. They just don't. I mean, like, even in what I consider the best movie in the MCU, Civil War, Zemo is kind of a bust, but like, it doesn't matter because the movie's just amazing. But anyway, go ahead. I digest.
I was gonna say I never really thought about it, but one thing that the movies do that the comics definitely don't is most of the movie villains like die.
Some
Like
of them.
that, yeah,
Ish.
like they're not really around to matter anymore. So yeah,
Right, but that's my point. Is like they aren't important because they're just like fodder to get to the big Thanos, Kang, whatever, big bad villain. You know.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I
And
have this. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, the last thing I was gonna say is I don't really like Natalie Portman in Star Wars either. I thought she was kind of the weak thing in that too. Her best movie is Where the Heart Is, which is a shitty Lifetime movie or something.
Is that the one where like she's like a teen pregnancy or whatever, and like
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Has
a good
a
movie.
baby
Yeah,
in Walmart and
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. Like,
good movie.
Wait, this what I said, 5 out of 5 casting choice. I've never seen a movie filled with more people doing
Less.
great work with absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
just like you go
yeah.
back. I mean, there's scenes in here, and there's this one scene. It's right after spoiler. Rene Russo gets killed.
Spoiler.
There's that,
This movie's almost
it's
10 years old. We're good.
it's that scene where Natalie Portman's in the room, Chris Hemsworth is in the room, and Odin is down on the ground. He's got his hand. It's just like these dudes putting why isn't there anything happening in this fucking movie for these people to do?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's just like anytime that Odin is talking to Thor or Jesus Christ, we will get
He
or
talks to
Loki
Jesus Christ.
speaking. Yes, he speaks to Jesus. Rene Russo speaking to everybody. Like Rene Russo speaking to Loki, or Jesus, Frigga talking to Loki. Every single person, the dialogue between everybody matters. It's just where this movie is heading at the end is so wasted and it's boring. But I will defend everybody that played a part in this movie to the death because, again, you go back and watch it and you watch anybody that shares dialogue with anybody. The Warriors 3 have good dialogue. Idris Elba has amazing dialogue as Heimdall. Everybody knocks it out of the park. It's just that nothing is going on.
yeah, and this is a weird example
The
of a
script
movie.
is so bad, but they're great at delivering the lines, you know?
Right, well, that's what I say. This is a really weird example of a movie where the script, as far as the dialogue is concerned, is really good, but
Yeah.
it's not building towards any type of like story that really matters. Like it's fun interactions without any meat.
What did I have?
3.5.
Okay, cool. I mean, look,
Cinematography.
yeah, I don't have any problem with the cast in this movie other than, look, whether it's
Other than it all sucked.
other than Natalie Portman, whether it's her or the director, like Eric said, I think, yeah, it doesn't matter. The point, I mean, she seems like she does not want to be in these movies. I mean, they didn't even like get her back for Endgame. They used like unused footage from Dark World. You know, like really? I mean,
But I mean, she's
know,
Lady Thor. Like,
I know, and that's okay. Go, what was that, Comic-Con or something they announced it at? Like, go watch her on stage. Like, she's like, I'm so glad I got a new contract because I mean, like, she does not want to be there, dude. I mean, look, I totally agree with you. She's not good in Star Wars or these movies. She's great in literally every other role that she's in.
yeah, Black
And
Swan.
Black Swan,
like,
she's amazing. She's really good in The Professional. She's like 12 years old in that movie. She's really good in every movie she's in, except for the huge, big blockbusters. And I don't get it. It has to be the director, just not pushing her, you know? I don't know.
maybe I think she tends to do well in films that are a little bit more like artistic in nature.
Yeah,
I think
V for
maybe
Vendetta,
maybe she's like more vested in those. I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
Because
well,
she's great in movies that don't pay a lot. Like
That's
it
what I'm saying.
wasn't her
I'm saying.
paycheck.
She's great in everything but
Thought
these
that didn't work.
blockbusters. It's weird. So what's next?
Cinematography, and which is page 4.
Richard said
apparently,
the
because
Warriors
that's
3
where we
were
are.
wasted. We're not talking about Ragnarok yet. We're still on the Dark World. Anyway, what was the next one?
Cinematography, page 4. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's what we all scored
What did I have?
for
what-
the third time in a row. 4.
Four.
Page 4.
Oh, page 4. Sorry, I'm not following you there.
I said it's page 4 because we all scored 4.
Okay. Sorry, my headphones are being weird. I don't know. Yeah,
okay.
this movie's
Yeah, your brain
beautiful.
fell out.
It's beautiful, dude. Like even like The Dark World, as weird as it looks, is very well shot. The Asgard is just I mean, I loved the first Thor movie. I did. It's the first Thor movie is very underrated for me.
Agree.
And it's like there's some really good shots in this movie. There's just nothing going on.
That's a good call, Eric.
Is
And
I
I think you're
100%
calling Toolshack, Richard.
completely agree with Colby. Everything they do with the Aether. If you want to, like, I watched it recently. Like, man, you know, what'd be cool. Spawn with that as his cape. It was just every time I watch the Aether, it's like, dude, that's wicked. There's when she goes into like the little reality other realm or wherever the hell she goes with that thing. There's a lot of just really great looking shots. This thing, of course,
It goes all slow motion and stuff, but the ether still kind of moves like in like fluid and stuff. Yeah, it's again, nice.
How can there be such good cinematography, amazing cast? Nothing is going on.
The first two Thor movies, particularly this one, really struggle from a really, really great director. Kenneth Branagh does a decent job in Thor 1, but this movie, who did this one? I don't remember.
I don't think it was.
It's not good. Like Taika Waititi, dude. Oh my god, I can't wait till we do Ragnarok. I love that movie so much, dude. It's so fun.
Yeah, and I think that's Richard and Eric, but to their thoughts, like it is possible Natalie Portman didn't put in effort because her character really didn't matter as far as the scripts went. Like Jane Foster as a character matters less than Darcy and Skarsgård.
Yeah,
I can't remember his
that's all
name, but like
that's all part of the overall thing, though. Like you gotta care. I mean, you know what I mean? You gotta want to be there.
I think that's just it, though. Like the plot didn't care about her character. Like her character didn't actually even need to be there. Like she is the most unneeded character out of the entire plot, and both like other than being a vessel for the Aether, like she doesn't really matter. And in Thor 1, she also really didn't matter.
Yeah, Eddie had a question.
Like
He's
her intern and Skarsgård matter more than her.
Yeah. Eddie asked, how is it liquid but then a stone in the gauntlet? I think they talk about how like it's the only one that's different, and then it like the gauntlet somehow like allows Thanos to like concentrate it into an ingot or something, right?
I vaguely remember a scene where he has the gauntlet and it kind of like is missed and then consolidates into
because we don't see him get the reality stone. He already has it.
That's one of the two we don't see him get,
which I think is on purpose because they were like, "Shit, what do we do? Ah, it's a stone." You know, a wizard did it.
Well, I think someone that kind of what we were talking about earlier. Humans aren't meant to wield their power, so I think with him actually being someone that is powerful enough to wield these, maybe he used it to turn itself into a stone. Like he altered reality to turn it into a stone.
Yeah, he definitely acquires it off screen. So it's like. I don't know.
It's explainable, I think.
I think they do mention it. They mentioned something about maybe it's in is it Doctor Strange when Wong is talking about how like before time began or whatever, like the 6 singularities were concentrated into ingots or something, and it shows it as a stone, and it's like it can be whatever it wants because it is the reality stone. Like that's a cop out, but you know, is what it is. So where are we at now?
The end. Which is a 2.8.
That's everything? We did it already?
So wait.
Oh, no.
Wait. So I was right. 2.8 versus 2.7, right? So it is better than Iron Man 3. Math. Empirical data. Suck it.
Because we got that, because you got that big fat 5 for me on that cast.
Hey, thank you for that.
Colby, your score was a 2.6 on Thor and a 2.5 on Iron Man.
Wow. Yeah. Okay,
nice.
I thought I was a little higher on Iron Man 3, just based on what I remember about giving the numbers. But again, I like this movie. It's enjoyable the first time you watch it, but it's just not like you don't need to watch it again, you know?
Yeah.
Iron Man 3 at least gives you some like character development with Tony, but does Thor really get anything from this movie? I mean, he gets most of his character development is post Ragnarok. Like they unleash him in Ragnarok and Infinity War. That's when he really gets, and he has a lot of character development in Endgame too. Going back to Thor: The Dark World, which is interesting, but it doesn't take place in this movie. It's weird.
Yeah, and I felt like they put a lot of effort into the cave scenes with him, where he's like in the water, yelling a lot. That was this movie, right? I'm not getting that mixed up.
That's Age of Ultron. I did the same thing earlier. It seems like it should be this movie, but it's not.
There is a bath scene, Brian, if you were curious. Yes, you can see or take a really quick bath with the shirt off. But other than that, no, there is no water scene. But, are we going to ask what are we going to take?
Oh, hold on, real quick about the cast. Zachary Levi is recast as Fandral, the guy with the
Yes.
Yeah, he is so much better than the first guy. Love Zachary Levi, he's awesome. And then in Ragnarok, he goes, rah, died. So that sucks. What are you gonna do?
They put him in makeup to kill him, which is
yeah.
Anyway,
he's like, hey, you're Shazam now. You can't be here. You know what? We're gonna kill all the Warriors 3.
No. What were you gonna ask, John?
I was gonna say, are we gonna do our gonna end it with a positive note?
Yeah, I'd like to.
What's the positive note? Because I'm confused.
What I'm taking away from Thor is, I think, like us, a lot of people are like, Thor, particularly in the Dark World, is the most boring character in the thing. My opinion. Yeah. He speaks the same way, unless he's screaming in anguish because one of his family, which he allegedly loses 2 family members in this movie, and that's the only time we get any kind of emotion. He's very monotone. So at some point, higher ups that wanted to make money are like, we like this character, but he's got to change. But without this movie being so drab when it came to like where they wanted this character to go, it's like, we got to do something with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
You know what? I mean, that one scene where he hangs up his hammer on the coat rack, that was Chris Hemsworth's improv.
That's like, that scene could be straight out of Ragnarok, and it would not be out of place at all. You know.
And there's a few things like that where it's just like where they get in the car, and I think it's this guy Richard calls Natalie Portman, and as soon as she gets off the phone, he goes, Richard.
Yeah.
Saying? Like
there's a little bit there. There's a little bit there. And I like how he's starting to become more human the more time he spends with him. And it just happens a little too slowly. And then in Ragnarok, he's been gone for so long that we don't like it. It all happens off screen, and then he's like an actor now.
Oh, no,
like
I'm in this cage. How did this happen?
Surtur, son of a bitch, you're alive. Like it's.
I would say that I just kind of realized, based on what John said, I don't think that the Thor franchise would have survived if Loki was not in these 2 movies, because I really think that his popularity throughout the first phase of the MCU is the only thing that really kept Thor relevant.
So, you know how I stole yours the first time? Yeah. My positive is this is really Loki's movie in a lot of ways. Like, this is where Loki really gets to shine, because he's not just a bad guy. Just because he's bad guy doesn't mean he's bad guy, and his character development in this movie, especially with between him and Frigga is really, really cool. Like, he's devastated when she dies. And that's just not something I thought I would see from him.
Yeah. And
he's putting up those walls
played on in the Loki show. I mean, we totally see flashbacks to that, and I think he was actually
they hadn't happened yet. That's the crazy thing. They actually hadn't happened to that Loki. Man, that's a metaphysical paradox right there. Anyway.
Yeah. But I really do think that Loki was the strongest part of the first 2 Thor movies.
I'll put the chemistry between Loki and, again, the scenes with even he and Odin in the beginning, and he's still he's so cocky and sure himself. And when he's being sentenced to a life in the dungeons, he's still like, no, I did the right thing.
Can we talk about Chris Evans' impersonation of Loki impersonating Captain America? Spot on, dude. For the awesome. 2 seconds he's there, it's just like, that's Loki.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anyone asks me, hey John, why should I go watch Thor: The Dark World? Go watch some great character interactions between Thor and Loki, especially. I don't think anyone's gonna say anything bad about Tom Hiddleston and anything he said during this movie or how he portrayed Loki in any way, shape, or form. If you want to see again character growth and what happens, and just if you watch the Thor trilogy, it's great. And if you just take the interactions between Thor and Loki from the Dark World out of it, then enjoy Thor and enjoy Ragnarok, then I think it's a solid trilogy altogether. That's because
Yeah.
Ragnarok and Thor are really strong.
Eddie, I think on that note, so Eddie said he was more upset when he saw his future self die than when his adopted mother dies. I think
It's not the same Loki though at that point.
Yeah, but I also think that Loki up to that point, talking back to glorious purpose, I think everything bad that happened to him or that he did, he always psychologically like filed into this is all for my glorious purpose. This is all leading to something amazing. And I think because of that, anything bad he did or that happened to him was very minimized in his mind because he all thought it was for this greater good that he was going to serve at some point in the future that he now knows would never have happened.
It's deep, dude. Good stuff. Did you guys notice the like Asgardian scientist that's like working on the Soul Forge, the quantum field generator, is actually the Borg queen? It's the same actress that from Star Trek.
Did not notice.
Yeah. So cast 5 out of 5, right, John? Overall, these movies are not horrible. They just again, I don't hate The Dark World the way I dislike Iron Man 3, but Iron Man 3 at least has a point. Like it's more rewatchable. Like this is just sort of forgettable. They really did not know what to do with Thor. They didn't want to do the Superman treatment with him and have him too powerful because he's all Marvel has like up until this point. And you saw what happened when they finally really, have a Captain Marvel type character. People are like, oh, nothing can hurt her. She's not vulnerable. We don't connect with her. They were afraid of doing that with Thor. So I like how they took their time with him. And then in Ragnarok, they just fully like awaken him. And I can't wait till we get to talk about that movie. That's I think that's probably my top 5 of the MCU overall.
But we do have some of the best movies in the MCU coming up when we get back to doing these rewatches. We have we have Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And we have Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think Guardians comes after Winter Soldier. Yeah. So
Wait to talk about Guardians.
Yeah, I know that's your favorite movie, right? Of the bunch.
So it's this is it. Yeah, this is you're looking at MCU on a timeline. About how wavy it is when it hits these two movies in a row.
Yeah, it wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking good because they had just come off Captain America, which is a great movie, and then the Avengers, which is what I consider the best superhero movie of all time up to that point. And then they do these two, and we're like, what the hell have they done? Like, because remember, these are the first 2 movies in the MCU that came out after Disney bought Marvel, and people were like, this is bad. Like, this is really not good. And then Winter Soldier came out, and we were like, okay, they're back on track. And then we found out Guardians are coming out, and people were like, what the hell is this? Who are these jabronis? And it's, and it just worked on so many levels. So love that movie.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it more when we get to Guardians, but Guardians actually got me back into reading comics again.
It's good.
Speaking of reading comics,
I mean, it is like, I saw the trailer for it and was like, I need to go read that. Went and read Annihilation and War of Kings and all that stuff.
Yeah, you showed me that there's like a picture of like a flow chart of like if you're interested in like really finding out about the true like cosmic stuff with the MCU with all the Infinity Gauntlet stuff, like you need to read like these 3 issues of Drax, these 14 Guardians issues, these 5, there's it's like a whole thing, and it was great.
I read through that map.
Yeah,
I read through that entire map because of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Eddie says Guardians is a 72 out of 5.
You're
Good.
damn right.
It's good.
You're
Tasty,
damn
man.
right.
So
I think that's all we got on these two
Yeah.
movies.
That's
next
good.
week, we'll just give you guys a little preview. We're gonna change it up a little bit. We're gonna go away from the MCU rewatch, and since we did 2 movies this week, and we're gonna talk about some of our favorite board games. We're gonna pick out 10 of our favorite games and just talk about them. Brian, you gonna participate, or you gonna sit this one out?
I might join. I think it would be a very boring list for me, though. So I'll bring a couple that I really enjoy that may not be on your list. But if you ask me my top 10 board games, probably 6 or 7 of those are going to be games from my childhood that I
Hey, that's the
not played in a long
that's the
time.
whole point.
So-
You know, like my favorite cartoon of all time is Transformers. I have all of them on Blu-ray, and they are unwatchable. Like Jonathan knows what I'm talking about, dude.
It's just like I'm a hardcore fan.
Dude.
I'm gonna sit down and watch this. They're like,
I
why
know.
am I
I
watching
can't
this
tell
shit?
you how
Dude,
many
they-
times I've tried to go back
Oh
and
my
rewatch it
god,
and just
dude!
can't.
Animation errors. There's like 5 star screams in the same shot. 2 of them are talking at once, and it's just like it's what the hell? Like
I'll go
No.
rewatch that Transformers animated movie. Like I could watch that every day of the week, but I cannot go back and watch the show.
yeah.
Good.
Anyway, we had some good conversation tonight. Had some good participation in chat. Thanks for everybody for joining us. I have just started today some construction in my house. I'm getting basically my entire ceiling replaced except for this room and my bedroom because of water damage from Hurricane Sally, and it's just the worst. Brian, I know your house is almost done with your construction, so
Well,
maybe you
I
can.
wouldn't say almost done, but a lot of progress. This
Okay,
week.
well maybe you can leave your guest room. It's coming up soon. John, what do you got going on, man? Next few days,
Hey.
next week.
Oh man, I have just began to self-promote my local trivia and bingo thing. It's getting big.
Dude,
It's
we
getting
got
a
to
lot
do
bigger.
one on the show. We need to do a trivia on the show. We'll do we'll do an MCU trivia, dude. We'll do an
Me
MCU
and you
trivia.
sit down and we do. Me, you, and Brian can sit down and do like a little practice run, and we can iron out because I know the number one killer for any kind of podcast or live streaming is dead air, and
Just
that
get a
is one
10
thing-
just get a 10-second timer, dude. 10 seconds. You got 10 seconds to answer it.
Get 10 seconds.
Yeah, that'll be cool cuz I want to see, like Trivial Pursuit may or may not be on my top 10 board games of all time. So,
That's nice. I'll leave you with this.
Jonathan knows how much of a trivia nut I am. Brian probably does too. I just throw out facts and they're like, "How do you know this stuff?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just there."
Get rid of it.
And I am one of those people that can know everything about a topic, and then as soon as it starts coming at me in the form of trivia, I forget everything.
Like as soon as I'm around, you stop being funny again. Like that, because that happens to you. Like you're funny, and then I come around, you're like, I'm smart, I swear, and it's just like, yeah. So Brian actually helped me with some pinball stuff. Richard, I don't know if you're still around, but we worked on the Royal Rumble machine a little bit. Got the speaker panel fixed up, installed some LEDs. So look out for that video soon. Also going to be installing a new soundboard, probably messing around with some custom sounds. I want to get like some real wrestler entrances and not the like MIDI synthesizer stuff that they have with the default board,
I like that sound.
I
man.
know you do, and you're weird, and you like nostalgia
like
and all
it.
that. And here's the cool thing: like you can go back to the original sound like in 2 minutes. So this is stuff I'm just gonna kind of play around with. So, look out for some more videos soon. Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about these movies. As always, fan out. See you guys.
Fan out.
Now, guys.